That was malicious. This was somebody's pet.
We recorded most of the video you're about to see over a week ago. We delayed the release, hoping to collect more information and also hoping that we would receive a response from FWC, which we did. In the last month, there have been 2 more prominent euthanasia situations which have come to light involving FWC. One of these was the killing of an escaped pet monitor lizard. FWC initially identified that as a black-throated monitor, but after coordination with several experts, both in the zoo field and amongst private keepers, it's been determined that this was most likely a white-throated monitor, not a black-throat. The other incident is the absolutely horrific killing of a white-tailed deer, which was raised as a pet. This was covered in some depth on the Tipping Scales YouTube channel if you want to check that out. I must warn you that the descriptions and visuals of that are disturbing and discretion is advised. Melissa Tucker, the director of the Division of Habitat and Species Conservation for FWC, recently described the killing of a black-throat monitor lizard back in August to members of our state legislature.
The I've Got One app, along with a call-in number and a website, is a multi-agency tool that citizens can use to report an invasive fish, wildlife, or plant species. The risk assessments that I described earlier have helped us to identify when a species that's reported is a high priority and to mobilize staff to respond. An example of this occurred in August earlier this year when we received a report through our invasive species hotline from a member of the public. They reported a 4 to 5 foot lizard that was burrowing under their home in Orlando. We then received the photos that you see here and identified this as a black-throated monitor. Monitors are a high priority species for us because we know that they have an impact on our native fish and wildlife. Staff were able to mobilize an FWC early detection and rapid response volunteer who went out and humanely captured and killed the individual that you see.
Back in April, FWC's killing of over 30 pythons and a legally owned pregnant female boa constrictor gained worldwide media attention in an event that became known as the Holy Thursday Massacre. In May, in the wake of the Holy Thursday Massacre, new FWC Executive Director Roger Young gave a directive to staff and law enforcement at the agency halting euthanasia.
I have put a directive to all of our investigators and staff that we will not be euthanizing any animals at this point unless it's in exigent circumstances.
What would those circumstances be?
Side of the road issues with animals that get hit or something like that. So we're not talking about all captive, we're talking about all wildlife. So there's cases where officers have to do that. They have no choice for law enforcement purposes.
Black-throat monitor lizards are not known to be invasive in Florida. They're not established in the wild in Florida. They're legal to own, and in fact, they're popular pets. Unlike what Melissa Tucker says here, monitor lizards are not a species of lizards. It's an entire family of lizards.
Monitors are a high priority species for us because we know that they have an impact on our native fish and wildlife.
There is a small population of Nile monitor lizards that's been established for many years in a small area of South Florida. And unlike what Tucker said, there's no evidence that even Nile monitor lizards are having damaging impacts to native species. In fact, with the data we have, we see that they're eating mostly insects and also invasive black rats and even green iguana eggs. The 188 I've Got One number Melissa Tucker references here is the same number found on FWC's Pet Amnesty website. Pet Amnesty is an FWC program which claims to place non-native animals with qualified adopters. Why, in the case of an obvious escaped pet, was this animal killed rather than placing with an adopter through the Amnesty program? Or with us, as was suggested by FWC commissioners at the last FWC commission meeting. USARK Florida, and I think most of the reptile industry and pet industry, is fully in support of the Pet Amnesty program. We would like to point out that we have offered our help multiple times at the TAG meetings.
So we do support this program, and we really would like to work with you on that.
Since we have a relationship with Daniel, Marcus, and all the others, can we not say, great, take that one that's illegal and then tell us about it? so it doesn't go out in the wild? Because this guy's going to go out and release it, right? Because he can't handle it, and he tried to pass it to Daniel. So why don't we say, hey, we got a great relationship with you guys. Go ahead and take it, and then call us.
And this seems like a time that we can kind of work together. So how do we fix that process so that Marcus and Daniel can be part of the solution?
Now joining us with her thoughts on the situation is USARK Florida President Elizabeth Wisniewski.
I am beyond upset. Words cannot even express how I feel right now. I don't even know what to say. It is unfortunate that they are still doing what they're doing. It is a very sad day. This pet, and I will call it a pet, this pet got out. He was sleeping under a porch. He was not hurting anybody. It is no different than your cat or your dog getting out, animal control coming out and killing it right there on the spot. There is no difference. None. We have told them numerous times, call us. They've even said in this same meeting, Melissa Tucker said there is an amnesty program. Jan is amazing. She is in charge of the amnesty program at FWC. I have nothing but wonderful things to say to her about her. What should have happened is they should have sent somebody out. The animals should have gone either to amnesty or someone in the state of Florida. One of us should have been notified. We have told them time and time again, we will help find them a home, whether it's in the state or out of the state. If it's an invasive species, we have a team of people that can get them out of the state of Florida. These animals do not need to die. There is no excuse, none whatsoever, to euthanize a perfectly healthy pet. This was somebody's pet, and I can't stress that enough.
This is not a species that's prohibited. It has no special regulations. You can buy one at a pet store. It's unfortunate. Of course, we encourage people to be responsible pet owners. We don't want things getting out. It's unfortunate that this happened, but when somebody's dog or cat gets out, just like you said, Elizabeth, the automatic response is not to just kill it.
No.
So an animal like this is not an example of a population. It's not an invasive species. It's not a prohibited species. So why are they killing it?
They're malicious. That was malicious. And especially after what has already happened this year, when the executive director stood in front of the commissioners and in front of the public and in front of me and said, this would not happen again.
In this case, we don't know exactly what happened, but from Melissa Tucker's description, they dispatched a volunteer who humanely euthanized the animal. Well, we've seen that in the past, their descriptions of humane euthanasia have not exactly been humane. But once again, why is a veterinarian or some qualified professional not being involved in this? If it is deemed necessary to euthanize an animal, which in this case it absolutely wasn't, again, but why isn't a professional involved in doing that? Why is this just a volunteer? We have requested all the documents relating to this. FWC has not sent those to us. We're not holding our breath because in the past, they've spent sometimes months, up to 6 months, getting us documents that we requested, which is required by law, Florida law. They're supposed to provide us with documents. So we don't know exactly what happened here other than what Melissa Tucker just told members of the legislature. But just with that, that's enough. And Elizabeth, you told them at the May Commission meeting, we could have, in reference to Chris Coffey's animals, we were just with you at the tag meeting.
Yes.
We could have taken those animals in. And then it comes back at the last commission meeting, Commissioner Sonia Rude, when I commented on amnesty, she said, yeah, why can't our friends like Daniel help us with rehoming these animals? And she said that to the whole meeting, and all the other commissioners seemed to agree, and so did Executive Director Young. So
absolutely,
the commissioners seem to agree with us. The executive director seems to agree with us. But for some reason, there are these people that are just dead set on killing animals rather than finding them homes or allowing them to be pets. And it's disgusting. It has to stop.
You know, I had somebody call me about a tiger. We don't even do tigers. But I reached out to people I know and we found placement. We work with everyone to try to have the best for the animals. This isn't about you. This isn't about me. This is about an animal, a living, breathing life. It doesn't deserve this. It didn't deserve to die because it's sleeping under a porch. This has got to stop. This is unacceptable and cannot happen. Somebody needs to be held responsible. We hadn't known about this one if Melissa hadn't told us herself. We don't know what else is happening.
And told our state legislators to promote FWC, apparently.
Yes.
FWC Executive Director Roger Young did reach out to USARK Florida regarding these recent euthanasia controversies. He issued this statement by email to USARK Florida President Elizabeth Wisniewski. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide some context to the incidents you're referring to in this video. The two events are very different and illustrate the hard decisions that our volunteers and staff have to make every day to balance public safety and conservation considerations. As you are aware, at a prior commission meeting, I directed staff to halt euthanasia of animals in the field, barring exigent circumstances. It is very likely that this message didn't get to our volunteers who are assisting with non-native wildlife control efforts, and that's on me. We are committed to making changes and improvements to our procedures, and we are in the process of drafting updated policy and guidelines to address incidents such as these. Our Division of Law Enforcement has been drafting a policy on field euthanasia for officers, and our Habitat and Species Conservation Division is developing guidelines for disposition of captured non-native species, which will include rehoming if possible. When I directed staff to cease field euthanasia except for exigent circumstances, it was following the incident in which a captive boa constrictor was mistakenly killed by captive wildlife investigators. My direction, which could have been stated more explicitly at the time, was specifically to prevent an incident of that nature from occurring again. Captive wildlife staff has halted the euthanasia of captive animals within the facilities they are housed, unless exigent circumstances are present. The FWC will continue efforts to minimize the adverse impacts of non-native species in Florida through prevention, early detection, rapid response, control and management, and education and outreach. Our staff will continue to monitor and remove non-native species, rehome when or if possible, respond to new invasions, and assess the risk of species not yet present in our state. Roger A. Young, Executive Director, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Roger Young has been responsive to us, and he's been willing to engage in meaningful dialogue. In this statement, Young is accepting responsibility, which shows good leadership skills and character. It's certainly nothing like anything we've seen from previous FWC leadership, and that's a good thing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel so we can continue to bring you the latest updated information on this and other stories.